Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Laguna Seca as we are about to get underway for the second to last race of FEC's Summer Indycar Series here. We are looking at a decently sized field in today's event, a field of about 13 drivers today. In the championship fight, there is a possibility that we will see all three championships, the drivers, the teams, and the manufacturers championship, all get wrapped up today. It's not a guarantee, but it is a possibility. Real quickly, let's look at some of the drivers who are going to be running in today's event. Broken GTR is back in their pink and blue Mazda. They qualified on the pole for today's event. Prius Killer 8110 is going to be sharing the front row with them in the Buick entry. Buick is trying to claw their way back into second in the Manufacturers Championship. MabeyRacing is looking to try and lock up the championship. Basically, if Mabey can finish 1 to 2 spots ahead of Dino Prime, he'll pretty much have the championship wrapped up by default, and that's with having missed a race earlier in the season. It's been a fantastic season that Mabey has put together this year. Jack Broseph actually was able to get qualifying in today, so he'll be qualifying higher up the order than where we normally see him. Real quickly, we're going to start seeing them actually order the grid. Dino Prime, I believe, is going to be starting in the 5th position. He basically needs some absolute chaos to happen to maybe very early on to keep himself in any sense of hope for the championship fight. Again, there is still one more race. Next week, they will be running at the Miami Oval for the second time this season. Miami is the only track that this series is going to be running at twice, so do keep that in mind. Then you also have Thomas 086R, who has had one of their better qualifying runs this season. They ran at Road America and the NASCAR event for PTG yesterday. Didn't have a great run there. They look to try and turn that around now. Then you'll have Naito Gamer, who is going to be starting right in the middle of the field. He's going to be trying to move up the grid. Give it just a moment as we load onto the circuit proper here. All right, well, while we're waiting, real quickly, I'll go over the championship standings as they are right now then while we are waiting. MabeyRacing leads the points with 284 in total. Dino Prime 77 is second with 245 points. Third is Amish Racing with 227. Fourth is Jack Broseph with 212. So the fight for third in Drivers' Championship is very much alive. Fifth is Pendaz, also known as Panda. He has 184 points. Sixth is Claiming Racer with 178. Seventh is NFL with 173. Then 8th is CGK with 170. 9th is Prius with 158. 10th is Scored Buffalo with 153. And 11th is Nismo with 151. Naito is 12th with 112. There's a tie for 13th between Kuroshine and Meteor, 110 each, but I don't believe either of them are running in today's event. I'm not going to go any farther down than that. Real quickly, look at the team's championship. Leading is the P1 Speedworks Ford team. They have 512 points. Second is Fredrickson Racing Enterprises with 445. So that championship is likely going to be locked up by default at the end of the day today. Hyperion Motorsports is third with 364. So they're also pretty much locked into third position. Fourth is Raycon's GGA with 279. Fifth is GGA Esports with 234. And then after that, you have Ace with 122. Two-Door Racing with 111, Damage with 100 flat, and Genesis Magna with 58. In the manufacturers, Hyundai and Cadillac are tied with 5, Mazda has 15 points, Bentley 16, Toyota 18, Chevy 30, Honda 57, Lotus 59, Porsche 71, Buick 133, Dodge 161, and Ford has 215. Going to be looking at a 47-lap race today. Everyone is anticipating that this, like Watkins Glen about a week ago, is going to be a very simple one-stop strategy for today's event. So keep that in mind as we get underway here. 13-driver field. Big thing to consider. Maybe if they can finish where they qualified relative to Dino, they will have the championship basically locked up going into Miami. Team's championship is going to be locked up just by finishing today's race, and the Manufacturers Championship will likely get locked up unless maybe has some sort of catastrophic failure. And then we also see NFL Racer lag out, and are we having technical issues just before the green? We may be having a technical issue right before we even get to the green. It does seem like that's the case. So before right at the last few corners, drivers start dropping out due to connectivity issues, so we're going to have to do a lobby reset, folks. We do apologize for this. Please stand by. Real quickly, they're trying to get everyone back in here. All right, looks like everyone's back in the lobby real quickly. So we're going to try and do this one more time at Laguna. Well, I have gone through the points, so this will actually give us a chance to look at the field as they roll around the circuit. We'll see. All right, attempt number 2 here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Laguna Seca. Oh, wow, that was weird. Rokin is going to be on the pole for today's event, followed by Prius Killer and MabeyRacing. Fourth is Jack Broseph, which has been his strongest qualifying attempt all season on. He'd really love to try and parlay this into a top 3 finish. Donald Prime, who is realistically the only driver left in serious championship contention against Mabey, is starting 5th, but he needs bad things to happen to Mabey. He'll be followed by Thomas 086R, followed then by the black and gold car of Naito Gamer, then series host Pendaz, who's riding the Dente. After that will be Knees Morphed and Amish Gaming, who is trying to secure 3rd in the championship. Then you have Taylor Weiler. I believe this is only his first start this season. Keep an eye on that. It's a very Christmassy looking car. Then will be Choo Choo 541975. Then GGA Design, who will round out the rear of the grid here. As we see the field coming down now to the final corner, we have 6.5 rows. It will be 47 laps of racing, and everyone is anticipating this to be a very simple single stop strategy race. So sheer pace is going to dictate everything. As they come down to the line, green flag was already out, and we are off, and Prius is completely caught clacking at the wheel and immediately falls back to 3rd, and there's something gone wrong with Dino farther back. He has gone off circuit and has completely slid off circuit and is going to fall way down the order. So both Buick entries immediately have some sort of problem, and any chance that Dino had in the championship is already over as he has fallen to dead last on the track. And his teammate and manufacturer partner, Prius, now tries to get back up behind Mabey. Mabey blocks him, and here comes Jack. Jack around the outside with a Herculean move, trying to get around Mabey. Mabey has a bit of a twitch. Jack gets tires into the dirt. Here comes Prius alongside, neck and neck. Is there any contact? No, both drivers back off, but Jack ends up sliding tires in the dirt, falls back to 4th position. And now he's under threat from Naito. Naito around the outside. Side by side, through the corkscrew. There's barely enough room to do that, and it's not something anyone would normally recommend. Now, Prius fights his way to get back ahead. And all the while, Rokin and Mabey are just scooting away from the rest of the field, but it is chaos in the upper midfield right now. Prius finally gets back to third, but Jack and Naito are still at it, and here comes Pendaz now. Pendaz pulls up alongside Naito. Naito now dives to the inside. He's got his nose alongside. Does he try to hip check the 17 off? He gives the 17 a bit of a hip check out of the Andretti hairpin. So he'll move back in front of Pendaz. So our top four are mostly all where they started. The big wild thing is Dino, who started 5th and immediately went off lap 1, turn 2, and has fallen all the way to what is currently 12th on circuit. So with that in mind, every championship, unless something dramatic happens, every championship in this series has been decided. Oh, and that's Jack, who's gone way off there into the dirt. Coming uphill, that's going to give Naito a shot. Naito pulls up alongside. He's not completed the pass as they get to the corkscrew. A little bit of wheels locking, but Naito's got Jack. Jack's going to try and fight back. He takes the tighter inside line, washes wide, blocks Naito, and he's going to bring Pendaz back into the fray now. Jack may be faster, but he seems to be incredibly mistake-prone here in these early stages. And they're side by side. They're into the inside wall, right in front of Pendaz. Pendaz has a run. He'll use that to get by Naito, but is there any damage to either of their cars after that? Nothing that I can see. And meanwhile, at the head of the field, Mabey has closed in behind Roken GTR. Roken has 2 poles on the season, but has not been able to win either of the races he started up front at. Mabey has been able to win from all sorts of starting positions. And now he looks to the inside. There's almost contact. Roken has to keep Mabey behind. Roken has been absolutely amazing in qualifying, but their race pace and their ability to maintain a consistent race pace has been significantly lacking. And while Dino has now moved his way up to 10th, Mabey fighting for the win means that we are likely looking at 1st and 2nd in the championship being locked up at the end of today's race. Pendaz now gets back by Naito there. And then Naito gets back. Remember, Pendaz still looking for his first top 5 of the season. While he has shown up to every race, he has not gotten a single top 5 result all year long. The series host desperately trying to change this here. You only have this race and 1 more after this. And with everyone thinking that Miami is their chance, it's not really a good idea to bet on having a good result there. Well, it gets right under the rear diffuser of Naito. Nothing crazy happening yet. Prius is also finally pulled away from Jack a little bit. Also, Dino down here in 10th position. He said that of all the cars and all the tracks he has run in this series, this has been the worst car-track combo yet. It's basically been a gradual case of each event seems to be worse and worse for him over the course of the season. And while he may have put in a 5th place qualifying effort, he is struggling to cut his way up through the field right now. Roken has fallen behind MabeyRacing on circuit now and has actually started to slip back into the grips of Prius. He has engine damage, and that's likely going to be the big cause of it. While Laguna is not really a power-focused circuit, when your top 3 all qualify very close to each other, a little bit of engine damage is going to massively destroy your ability to maintain good positioning. And now Roken is only about a second ahead of Prius Killer now. If even that, the gap continues to shrink. Maybe trying to walk off, steal what I believe would be their 4th? Either the 3rd or 4th win of the season. As I say that, they drop tires in the dirt. So does Roken. Prius does not have any such issues, though. Prius is able to follow suit without problem, without drifting tires into the dirt here. Does Prius have the pace to fight with Roken? Remember, Prius fought with Mabey back at the Grand Oak race very early in the season. Ended up losing it in the end, as Mabey had much superior pace and tire management. But Prius has been pretty much one of only 2 other drivers, one of 3 drivers total, the others being Scored Buffalo and Claiming Racer. And now we see Roken has missed the corkscrew, and Prius is going to slide by without issue. Watch that fight for a second as it comes down to the final corner here. Roken tries the crossover on corner exit. We'll see how that turns out as they come down to the hairpin, the Andretti hairpin. Roken inside, Prius outside. Prius really wide on the outside. Leaves the inside line wide open, and Roken goes right back by and goes into the dirt. But Roken has gotten back by Prius, but it is very plain to see that while Roken has great single lap pace, they do not have the race pace they need to walk off. They can put together one fast lap, but they do not have the ability to replicate it over a long run. Oh, and Prius goes deep into the dirt there and will slide off. Into the corkscrew again. Roken had a bad run here last time, but this time it looks like it's Prius who's a bit worse off, so the gap starts to open. Meanwhile, we look back at this was turned into a stalking battle for 5th place. Pindaz runs behind Naito Gamer. Taylor Weiler, who has not run in this series before, he is running in the dead center of the field in 7th place. Choo-Choo has already had to pit to repair damage to his car. Dino has recovered up to 8th, but it almost feels futile for him, I would imagine. Real quickly, let's look at the fuel and tire wear of our top 5 drivers right now. 15% wear for Mabey, 74% in the fuel tank. For Roken, 63 in the fuel tank, 15% wear. For Prius, 75% fuel, 16% wear. And he goes deep into the dirt again, even worse than last time. So as his tires are falling off, he is struggling. Jack Broseph, 16 in the tire wear, 49 in the engine. So he's really underfueled compared to the drivers ahead. This is 5th place. Naito, who is now starting to run away from Pindaz, 74% in the fuel tank. And Pindaz, who's seen his shot at 5th place finish slip away, he is at 57%. So he is lower on fuel right now, and yet despite lower fuel typically being the big deciding factor in where everyone turns up, Pindaz is just losing time to Naito on track right now. Pretty much every other fight on track has dissolved at this stage of the race. Dino may have a shot at running down the drivers ahead, but Mabey is scooting off into the distance. As we watch the field head through the corkscrew, seems like most, not all, but most of the battles for positions have already been decided. There goes Mabey. There goes Roken, who's now kind of got everything figured out. Even though their engine is getting damaged, they figured it out, and they're starting to pull on Prius. There's Jack, who's kind of in no man's land, followed by Naito and Pindaz, who continues to gradually lose time to him. Then it's Taylor Weiler, Dino, who is running down that gap as well. Then it's another about 5-second gap to Niesmorphed. And then behind them is Thomas and Amish. Amish is not having a good run today either. And then you'll have GGA Design, and then after that will be Choo-Choo, who is already a lap down. Oh, and there goes Prius off again. Every time Prius gets close to Roken, the aero wake of the car ahead seems to be dragging him off circuit. So while Prius is very comfortable with this car, it seems, in cleaner air, every time he ends up running in the draft to someone else, yes, it pulls him faster in the straight, but he does not seem to be able to adapt and brake early enough to deal with the aero wash going through the corners. So he's faster when he's by himself. Like right now, the gap between himself and second is nice and wide. But then the moment he starts closing the gap back down, he catches that aero wash and it keeps causing him to slide off. And that, coupled with the tires falling off, really seems to be compromising his run. We're going to go ahead and run Sam for a lap and ride on board with Prius so you get an idea as to what kind of struggles he is dealing with, trying to make something happen so he can fight with Roken. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Laguna Seca. Dino Prime has caught Taylor Weiler, but similar to his teammate Prius, every time he catches someone in the moment he catches their aero wash, he just does not seem to be able to keep their car on track. We're seeing Taylor struggling as well. There's also the fight for fifth that's been heating up and then cools down and heats up and cools down. But this one actually does seem to be a case of Dino being a faster driver, caught behind someone slower, so I think it's a little more likely we'll see an actual move for position happen here between the fight for fifth and this fight for seventh now. There's also a bit of a elbow fight, I guess you could say, between Amish and Thomas for 9th and 10th. They have gone back and forth for a while. They've gotten ahead of Niesmorf, who went off in the corkscrew a few laps ago. So Niesmorf has slipped back to 12th. Remember, Amish, he is third in the championship, has spent a large chunk of the season third in the championship. But he is not secured, and kind of like Dino, he needs to have a good run here if he wants to try and secure his spot in the championship. Right now, the good news for Dino is that while the championship is out of contention for him, as long as he doesn't have another incident and falls behind Amish, he should be able to lock up second in points without too much issue today. But most of that has been off the back of just attending every single race. While he's had a handful of good qualifying runs, he has had absolutely atrocious race pace, mainly due to issues with being unable to manage tire wear. And he does not seem to benefit from the car getting faster as the fuel load burns off. He seems to be the only driver who is not benefiting from a lighter fuel load in these events. He is fast at the start of the runs, and then as the tires burn off, he gets slower and slower, irregardless of the car getting lighter and lighter. He seems to be the only driver in the series that has been struggling with that. And now he finally gets a run. He pulls alongside for a brief moment. Is he going to try and do a crossover on the exit of the final corner? Puts the power down, gets right alongside, run uphill. And Dino clears Taylor for the position. Now Taylor gets a chance to go back in on a big dive in the hairpin, but Dino runs a little wide. That will give Taylor not quite enough room to pull back alongside. So Dino holds station over Taylor. And now he is back up to 7th with Amish down in 9th. The gap between Dino and Amish in the championship will open back up again. Although Taylor is not letting it go easily. Into the hairpin. That is a giant move. Couldn't pull alongside, but boy, Taylor brought a huge chunk of speed into the corkscrew that time. Dino shut that door, but it was at the last possible second. And he immediately goes off into the dirt. That gives the chance for Taylor to try and do what Dino did to him the last lap. Big wheel spin going over the curbs. Here comes Taylor. He's got a fantastic run. Dino's going to try and defend the inside over the hump that is turn 1 down into the Andretti hairpin for turn 2. And Taylor goes wide. Boy, does Taylor slide wide. So Dino will hold station. But you can visibly see that neither of these drivers are really having a good time with their cars today. Meanwhile, farther up, it seems like Prius is kind of bleeding off time now to Roken. So this battle for second may be just about over. A big thing to consider, though, is that Roken has engine damage. Prius does not. In that scenario, that means that Roken will have to spend slightly more time on pit lane. But after they make stops, Roken will likely end up being even faster than Prius. So if Roken right now was starting to pull away from Prius, that gap is only going to continue to open as the race goes on. Fight for fifth has picked back up as Pindas has caught Naito. He looks to the inside, goes deep, and puts his car right in front of that number 66. Pindaz gets ahead, but gets kind of shunted off. Coming out of the hairpin, they'll be side by side to turn 3 now. And they're still side by side as they come down to turn 4. And Pindaz got him. He slides right in front. That was fantastic. Now it's time for Naito to try and fight back. Big twitch by the black and gold car, but Pindaz gets into the dirt and they make contact there. And there's Pindaz. He's through it. Big slide for Naito under braking. He'll keep the car on track somehow, but both of them bled off a ridiculous amount of time in the process. And if these two keep fighting like this, they will bring Dino back into the fray, and Dino will walk by both of them, I imagine. These two keep bleeding time fighting with each other. Dino is running in comparatively clean air. Also, depending on when Dino catches them, he may not have to pass them on track. He might just pass them by virtue of running in cleaner air pit stops. He may, if he chooses to pit a lap or two earlier or a lap or two later than this duo, that might be what puts Dino ahead. You can see Dino already visually closing in on this duo right now. Seems like it's calmed down just for the moment between these two. But Dino is only about 3 seconds out. Pindaz missed the corner in turn 3. Naito goes way too aggressive in turn 4. Meanwhile, fight for seconds hicked up. Roken went off in the corkscrew, and now Prius shoots by into second. So Roken has a bit of a self-inflicted mistake, and that coupled with 2.5% engine damage will drop him back to third on the racetrack. Prius goes up to second. And remember, in the Buick camp, Prius is trying to bring home second in the Manufacturers Championship, with maybe walking off with the win right now. The Manufacturers Championship is going to be all but over. Oh, and Taylor Weiler has now fallen behind Amish as well. So something has happened to Taylor. No damage, but he has suddenly started dropping positions, and Amish has gotten by him as well. Roken continues to run just a little bit behind Prius, an inversion of what we had for the majority of the time. But our top 4 starters are now all in the exact same position they started the event in. Almost every overtake we have seen has been either a matter of the driver ahead making a mistake, or someone who qualified up front fell down the order, like Dino, just brute forcing. There's not really been a lot of legitimate driver-based overtakes. Most of it has just been drivers in practice. I got the ability to run practice with a lot of these guys for today's race. No one really seemed to be struggling too much in practice. Everyone seemed to be relatively happy. But now, with the pressure turned up in racing circumstances, it seems like drivers are just not able to perform today. Roken runs right behind Prius at the moment. The fight for the Bomb 2.7 on the podium. Now Prius drops his tires into the dirt, and that's going to compromise his speed and his line, but Roken does not have a good time through turn 3 either. Now through turn 4. They'll both keep it on track this time. Also be aware, that is Niesmorph, who's a little bit up the road. He'll be the next driver that these people will have to contend with. They have a slide there by Roken. I'm really interested to see who of these two are going to pit earlier. 34% fuel, 42 tires for Prius. For Roken, it is 40% tires, 24% fuel. So Prius is burning through his tires much faster than Roken, but Roken has a lot less fuel, so we'll likely see Roken dive into the pits a little bit earlier, possibly just out of necessity. Remember also, Roken has engine damage, so that will use a little bit of time when they come to pit. Farther down the order, Dino is now starting to close in on Naito, and up ahead of Naito is Pindaz. So while Pindaz has finally gotten good enough run, he is fighting for 5th. Dino may have something to say about that. The irony, if all of our drivers end up finishing where they qualify, even if our top 5 all finish where they qualify, that would be very, very abnormal. to say the least. Our second and third place drivers have caught traffic now. That is Niesmorph just ahead. Big power moment by Prius, and that's going to bring Broken right up behind. Prius into the dirt, trying to defend. Broken has a cleaner run through the second to last corner, but doesn't take a lot of speed just so he doesn't hit Prius in that rear diffuser. Jack Broseph is pitting at lap 21, but really lap 20 of a 47-lap race. And Jack pitting significantly earlier than we anticipated. Now, if we get a yellow, that strategy could work out in his favor. He would get track position. But with how much faster the top three are, it may not matter. He seems to be the only one doing that. Dino has already gotten by Naito, as Naito seems to have fallen off circuit. So Dino now up into 6th, and starting to close in on Pindaz. It will be 5th, but realistically 6th, of course, across the entire event overall. So Pindaz fighting for what would be his first top 5 of the season. Dino just trying to lock up 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. Small consolation for him. If you can skip a pit stop today, it would be fantastic, but with everyone anticipating this being a single stop affair, it's not really in the cards for anyone. The hard tires will not last. Who was that went off there? That was GGA Design, who has also gone a lap down at this stage of the race. But now the momentum between Roken and Prius has shifted just for the moment. Also, Taylor Weiler has now fallen behind Thomas, 086. So Taylor may have had a good start, but as this is going on, he just continues to bleed off time. There's no engine damage. It just seems like he is not agreeing with how the car handles as the fuel load burns off. He is losing a significant amount of pace. He's fighting, but he is still bleeding off time when he's by himself. Basically an inversion of Dino, who is flying when he's by himself, but then he catches someone else and he just loses time. Taylor is doing a good job fighting, but the moment he ends up by himself, he just is hemorrhaging time. Next driver who would go a lap down would be Jack Broseph. But again, Jack has made his first stop already. Our leader, MabeyRacing, has yet to do so. We are anticipating most drivers will pit at about lap 24, so not this lap, but the lap after. Some drivers may elect to go a little bit longer if they think it would benefit them. Taylor Weiler has now officially lost Thomas, and Taylor is actually at risk, I think, of being the next driver to legitimately go down a lap due to pace differentials. I am curious why Jack elected to pit so much earlier than everyone else. It's a wild strategy. But he's filled the car up with fuel all the way. The thing is, his tires will be cooked at the very end. Now again, fuel load usually has more impact than tires, but he's got a full fuel load down, so that's really going to slow his lap time. And then once his fuel load burns off, his tires aren't going to be in a good position to really take advantage of it. The only thing I can guess is that... Oh, and Naito's dropped out! Naito Gamer, who was fighting for a top 5, has suddenly dropped out of the event. We'll try to reach out to Naito, see if he has anything to say, but frustration for Naito, who is fighting for a top 5 of his own. That does make things a little easier for Pindaz and Dino trying to get top 5 results. And as I say that, Dino has now closed in on Pindaz in a fight for 4th. Remember, Dino qualified ahead of Pindaz, but went off lap 1, turn 2, fell all the way to last, and has been fighting his way up through the field. Pindaz looking for what would be his first top 5 of the season overall. And with Amish back there in 6th, while he's nowhere close to Dino, he is keeping the points threat up on Dino, making that fight for 2nd a little bit tough. Dino pulls not quite alongside. Does he go deep under braking here? No, he does not. And Pendaz moves over to block Dino. It does not look like anyone is choosing to pit right now, though. Even though we are halfway through the race exactly. Oh, and as I say that, Mabey is pitting now. So Mabey went one lap later before making their stop. Roken has fallen about 3 seconds off of Prius in second. But neither of them are close enough to capitalize on Mabey. Even unless Mabey has a big off, gets shunted off circuit, they have nothing they can do to them. This is the most active fight on circuit right now. Thomas 086, no, that's Neesmorph who is in the pits as well. And maybe we should be able to get out ahead of this duo, I would imagine. Oh, it looks like Pendaz is pitting. So Pendaz will pit, but Dino's going to stay out a little longer. So we're going to have a little bit of a pit stop strategy wild card here. But the interesting thing will be, where does Pendaz end up in relation to Jack Broseph? Because remember, Jack pitted about 4 laps earlier than Pendaz. So not only has he pitted significantly earlier, he has a heavier fuel load, so his laps are slower now, and his tires are going to be much worse later on. So unless Jack Broseph has opened up a ridiculous gap between himself and Pendaz, and by extension Dino, there's a possibility that Jack might lose what was looking like a solid 4th place run here. We see him by Taylor Weiler, Taylor, Amish, and Thomas have all gone ahead and pitted on this circuit. Roken has finally gone ahead to pit. So now we see Prius leading solo right now. He's going to be choosing to make his stop a little bit later. Interesting enough, we also see that at the moment, everyone except for the top 5 are now a lap down for the moment. Roken still ahead of Mabey, but how long is that going to last? Also, we do not know when Dino is going to elect to come into the pits. Dino stays out another lap as well now. Prius, we know he has a bigger fuel load than Roken. How deep is he going to go? He doesn't have a whole lot of fuel left, but he is burning up lap time by running on older tires. He'd ideally want to pit sooner rather than later. When it comes to the line, it'll be 22 laps to go. Roken's finally out of the pits. Only the top 5 are on the lead lap for now, but once Prius pits, and that is this lap, so Prius is pitting now. So I'm really interested to see between Prius and Roken who ends up where, and then between Jack Broseph and Pendaz, well, the gap between them is absolutely massive. It is more than the entire front straightaway. So Jack has maintained his advantage over Pendaz. If anything, I'd be more interested to see where it ends up between Pendaz and Dino, because Dino has been faster than Pendaz throughout the day, just had lap 1 issues kind of derail his run. I think Dino is actually the only driver who has yet to make their first up. And as I say that, he is pitting now. So the Buick duo are the last 2 drivers to pit. Where is Roken? We know maybe he's going to re-inherit the lead over Prius. There's no doubt about that. The question is, where is Roken going to end up in relation to Prius Killer? Because Roken had just gotten ahead, had fallen behind Prius, but now the engine damage should be repaired, and they have already heated up their tires. They're nice and warm. They're back into the rhythm. Mabey has now taken the lead back. Prius is that dot rounding the inside of the hairpin of turn 2. Roken comes around. It looks like Prius is out ahead of Roken, but Prius has to get his tires up to temp as fast as possible. In the fight between Dino, Jack Broseph, and Pendaz, yeah, that gap is very much open in Prius's favor. Now, Prius will have to get his tires up to temp, but once we get to the corkscrew, that should be done. What about Pendaz versus Dino? Jack's already cleared Dino without issue. Here comes Pendaz. Dino is already running down through the Andretti hairpin. Here comes Pendaz around the Andretti hairpin. Dino was pulling out ahead. It looks like the gap is open in Dino's favor. This is a little bit closer than what it is between Prius and Roken. If Dino has another mistake, I think Pendaz might still have a shot at this. But if anything, I think the real interesting thing is going to be Dino versus Jack. Jack pitted what was basically 7 laps earlier than Dino. So he is going to be on worn tires and is going to have a heavier fuel load compared to Dino all the way to the end. So while the gap between 4th and 5th is going to be really big right now, I would not be surprised to see it gradually shrink down as this event goes on. And between Pindaz and Dino, that fight is very much in Dino's favor. Someone's gone off there. That was Niesmorft, who has gone off in the second to last corner. One of 3 different drivers a lap down, but all of our lap down drivers are nowhere near each other on track right now. There's a bit of a stalking battle for 2nd and 3rd, and then a very, like the hint of a battle for 5th, but if Pindaz just keeps bleeding off time to Dino, that really won't be anything to write home about here. So for now, our top 5 qualifiers are all running where they qualify. Interesting things at Laguna Seca. We have had changes, but almost all of them have been due to mistakes. But now, drivers kind of minimize their mistakes, and it's all just coming down to pace. And it seems like the pace in the race is mostly reflecting what we saw in qualifying. The biggest exception, MabeyRacing. Started 3rd, is up in 1st, but everyone else is basically where they qualified, up at the head of the field. We're going to go ahead and take an ad break. We'll be back shortly here at Laguna Seca. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Laguna Seca. Most of the battles have pretty much dissipated. Dino is gradually pulling away from Pindaz. The big one to watch is going to be Jack, Broseph, and Dino. The gap is 15 seconds in Jack's favor right now, but Dino is going to have less fuel in the car and fresher tires, so he should be able to put out some fantastic laps, while Jack will be bleeding time as the race continues to wind on, so keep an eye on the fight for 4th. But outside of that, every other battle for position seems to be resolved. There is a possibility that we might see Choo Choo catch Niesmorft and get by Niesmorft, as Niesmorft has had an accident forcing him to make a second stop here. But other than that, every other position seems to be already resolved here. And if you look at the ticker, the real big wild card, Naito dropping out, has kind of shaken up the order a bit compared to where everyone qualified. But really the big difference is just maybe gained 2 position, Roken lost 2 positions. Jack is where he qualified, Dino is where he qualified. There's a little bit more movement farther down the grid, but still, definitely one of those kinds of days. Also, everyone has made their one mandatory stop, and yes, Choo Choo has overtaken Niesmorft, as we said would happen. Real quickly, looking at what we think might eventually turn to a fight for 4th. Jack is at 62% fuel, 22% tire wear. Dino is at not quite 10% tire wear, 73% fuel. So Dino actually has a lot more fuel in the car than Jack. That is not something I anticipated. So that actually might be enough to give the momentum back to Jack, that even if he loses time through worn tires, he should be able to maintain position. So I think with that, basically every spot has been decided, and Niesmorf is in the pits again. He has had another accident. So everything seems to be done. Okay, so real quickly, for those of you who have not been with us since the start, maybe took the lead in the first few laps and just walked off with it, and they are likely gonna, and unless he gets disqualified post-event or something, maybe will lock up the Drivers' Championship, the Teams' Championship, and the Manufacturers' Championship. And Prius has gone off! Prius has gone off! Something has happened to Prius! No damage, but he has lost time and gone off in the corkscrew. And now the momentum for second goes back in Rokin's favor. And Prius falls back to third. Like I said, we've not really seen moves on merit. Most of the moves we've been seeing has just been off the back of mistakes. Not really sure what happened to Prius. I'm guessing he locked up and went into the dirt, going over the top of the hill. As we see Prius coming up to the corkscrew this time. Remember that the braking zone going into the corkscrew basically starts just as the uphill drops off, and it's almost flat, so the entire weight of the car is lifting off of the ground. The momentum is carrying the weight of the car off the ground, so there's not as much weight going on the tires, so getting on the brakes, you can't exactly get on the brakes early and hold station. If you get on the brakes too early, you're going to be too slow, but if you get on them too late, you're not really going to slow yourself down. Entering the corkscrew is one of the more difficult one of the more difficult braking zones, not just on this track, but over the IndyCar calendar, both in this series and in real life. That's not to say it's some ridiculous over-the-top thing that's impossible to do, but it is definitely one of the harder things to make happen here. So only our top 7 drivers are on the lead lap. Amish is the next driver who is at risk of going a lap down. Real quickly, I do want to go ahead and talk about the championship points fight for third. Amish had third coming into today's race. The driver he has to stay ahead of, though, is Jack Brosov, who was fourth. The swing between them is 15 points. And right now, Jack Brosov is set for 4th place finish, while Amish is 7th. So that would close that gap down to just about nothing here. Real quickly. Fourth place will earn 15 points. Fourth place earns 32 points. 7th place earns 26. So that would be a 6-point swing in Jack's favor. And with it being a 15-point difference, that means that would be a 9-point swing in Amish's favor if these drivers finish where they are right now, going to Miami. Between Dino and Amish, Dino is set for a 5th place finish right now. Amish set for 7th. So that would open the gap 4 more points in Dino's favor. And the gap between Dino and Amish was at 18 going into today's event. So now that would go up to 22. Not enough to lock it up automatically, but definitely enough to make things a little tighter. In fact, Naito was way down the order in I believe the 12th position overall in points. He will bring home points, but he is not going to be able to close significantly on Niesmorf, because while Niesmorf has been absolutely dogged, he's gone 5 laps down due to the accidents, Niesmorf is still, by default, going to bring home more points than Naito. And as I say that, I think Niesmorf has just had another accident. Somehow, this is not warranting yellow flags, despite the fact that he has a very active hazard on the circuit. Is he going to stall going up the hill here? Is Niesmorft about to stall the car going uphill? Huh. Well, he's not stalled it, but he is barely creeping along. In other fights, CGK, Thomas 086, who is running 8th right now, currently is 9th in point. He's currently 8th in points by 12 over Prius. But Prius is fighting for a podium. Thomas is way down in 8th, so that would swing that momentum back in Prius's favor. Also, NFL Racer was ahead of both of them, but only by a small amount. Same with Claiming, who's just ahead of NFL. So both Thomas and Prius are going to leapfrog Claiming and NFL in the championship. For Pendaz, he is going to try, and he's not really in a position to do anything except just to hold on for 5th in points overall, and we have a caution. So they have finally thrown the yellow for Niesmorft incidents. So we are under the yellow flag here at Laguna Seca. We're going to knock out an ad break while we are under the yellow. We'll be back shortly at Laguna. This is going to be a really long yellow flag. The field was so spread out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Laguna Seca. After Niesmorft has had 3 big accidents in a row, we are under our first yellow flag of the day. MabeyRacing has led the majority of the event, but the gap he has been slowly building up is now gone. Same with Rokin versus Prius. The big thing, though, is that we do have several lapped cars still in the middle of this lead lap pack, so we'll likely see them get cycled through in a little bit here, but the entire field still has not gathered up. Amish Gaming in 6 and Pendaz in 7 still have yet to catch the rear of the grid, so right now, we're just kind of burning laps under yellow. Amish should finally catch up to the rear of the field momentarily here. Overall, our top 3 drivers are all relatively even when it comes to fuel and tire life. The biggest gap we're really seeing is Jack is way worse off on tire life than Prius and Dino, but Jack has less fuel than those two in his car. And with this yellow flag, any risk of him running out of fuel is basically denied and dissolved. So it will be a matter of if drivers on the fresher tires can actually do anything. But our top 5 starters are all in the top 5 positions. Granted, not in the spots they started in. Maybe qualified 3rd, but went to the lead right away. Rokin started 1st and has gone to 2nd, although they've been as far back as 3rd. And Prius has led laps as well. In fact, Prius is the only other driver to lead laps today. It's been maybe pretty much every other lap thus far. So the entire field now finally gathers up. When they hit the line, it will be 10 to go, but they have not let lapped cars through yet. Now, okay, so they've not let them through. They forced the lapped cars to all cycle up in order behind the lead group. So this should bring an end to the yellow flag relatively shortly here. Again, with 10 laps left, no one, I imagine, is going to elect to pit. Track position is just so important. Yes, tire life helps, but track position is so radically important. And no one is showing any desire to pit. So we should likely be coming to the green this time, I imagine. Everyone's gathered up. And boy, Roken was caught sleeping. Maybe is gone. And Prius is immediately taking the fight right back to Roken. We're green with 10 laps to go. And around the outside, Prius is trying to make it work. But Roken is just going to open the wheels just a little bit. He slides the car. Can't clear him yet. Jack is right there, ready to maybe put himself in the top 3, and Roken's into the dirt, and Prius is through, and now here comes Jack. Jack gets to the inside. They're both on top of each other. They make contact again, and again. Here comes Pindaz, here comes Dino. They're side by side. Roken on the inside, and he'll try to finally clear Jack. Still can't do it. One of the drivers are off just ahead. Now Roken clears Jack. And Dino is right there behind. Now Jack looks to the inside of Roken. Jack trying to get a podium out of this into the hairpin. No one really had a good run in the hairpin that time. Maybe is already 2 seconds off from the rest of the field. Here comes Jack. Tries to go to extreme inside on Roken. There's just nothing to be done there. All right, here comes Dino. Now Dino doesn't have to run down a 15-second gap. He's right here on Jack on merit. Trying to go the long way around Jack here. Pindaz is a little bit farther back, but Pindaz is being swamped by Amish farther behind. Oh, and that's Jack off into the dirt. Dino's not fast enough though to pull alongside. Looks high, looks low, doesn't know which way to go. It's one of the heavier braking zones. And Jack's wide. Dino dives to the inside. And he's going to clear him. So Dino now moves up into 4th position. He is now higher than where he qualified. And Jack needs to kind of get everything back under him quickly because he does have Pindaz and Amish behind. Now, these two are fighting. If they spend too much time fighting, Jack might not have to worry too much. But if Amish and Pindaz stop fighting and start just turning good laps in, Jack's gonna have to deal with some tires really burning out near the end. Still though, right now Jack is taking the fight back to Dino. Prius is kind of scooted away in 2nd, and Roken is scooting away in 3rd right now. Uphill, over the turn 1 hump, and now down into the turn 2 hairpin. Jack's going to go deep, try to go wide, kind of diamond out the hairpin. He can get a good run out. He stays right behind the rear wing of that number 77. Oh, and that's Prius who's gone off. And Prius goes off. Is the car damaged? There's no damage, but he went from a guaranteed 2nd, and now he has thrown it away. Has fallen all the way back to 7th, last of everyone on the lead lap. All of a sudden, Dino's in contention for a podium. All of a sudden, Jack is back in 4th, and Pindaz and Amish are now fighting for a top 5. But not for long, because Prius is already right back there all over again. Oh, and that's Amish. Amish has already gone off. And that will drop them behind lapped cars. So that's likely over. And already, Prius is right back behind Pindaz. Pindaz is just like, please, I need you to have a mistake. I need something to go wrong. I want a top 5 this season. But Prius is fighting for his own run, for his own Drivers' Championship results. And he'll clear Pindaz as if Pindaz was standing still. Dino and Jack continue to slug it out here for what is currently 3rd and 4th, but Prius may have enough time to catch them and get back. Oh, and they both go into the dirt. Big time lost by both of them there. And Jack goes way into the dirt this time, so Dino gets to open the gap just a little bit more. It's gotten chaotic here after this restart. Prius is still about a 2.5 behind this duo. Pindaz has lost Prius on pace thus far. Jack tried to line up something. He's trying to line something up on Dino here. Looking outside, inside, all over. Gonna try and go the long way around, coming down into the final corner. But now, Prius is there. Right on board Prius as he watches this duo battle for third ahead. 6 laps left. It's so obvious watching that Prius is faster than this duo, but mistakes have been the big thing today. Roken is second right now, but Roken has not been putting together a nice clean race either. He has had quite a few mistakes of his own. So really, every spot from second on down is up for grabs, but it's not going to be a driver versus driver combat. It looks like it's mostly just off of mistakes. You can minimize mistakes to the end here. Uphill. Now up to the corkscrew once more. There'll be 5 laps to go as Lears hits the line. Big twitch on power by Jack. Had that car at about 15-degree angle in both directions there. Bit of a slide as Jack starting to feel the tire fall off. Remember, Jack pitted way earlier, about 4 laps earlier to 7 laps earlier than everyone else. He pitted 7 laps earlier than Prius. So yeah, tires is definitely in Prius's favor right now. And now Prius forces his way by. Pindaz is another about 2 seconds off from this fight. So unless Jack completely falls off a cliff in tire life here, I think he could still pull home a top 5 result. But after qualifying 4th, 5th is not going to be satisfactory for him. I guarantee it. Mabey is gone nearly 8 seconds up the road. Roken is similarly gone in 2nd position. But now the fight's going to be for 3rd between the 2 Buick drivers. With Amish down in 7th and Dino up in 3rd. Oh, and Prius goes off into the dirt again! Way off! And all of a sudden, Jack goes right back by! And suddenly, Pindaz, while he's not on top of them now, Pindaz is starting to factor in, maybe just a bit. If Prius has another big off like that, he may not have time to capitalize. Both drivers, giant twitches and slides there. It's got to give Dino a little bit of breathing room. Dino putting in a driver of the day performance right now. 4 laps to go. Dino might have just what it takes to hold on to a podium spot here. While the championship would be basically done for him, it would put him in a spot where he doesn't have to do much to defend 2nd in points going forward. Oh! Prius is really having enough with this. He just absolutely used the Paul Tracy-style chrome horn on Jack Broseph. But Jack is holding station for now. Pindaz is still about 1.5 seconds between this duo. If they spend too much time bleeding off time with each other or going off circuit, Pindaz might still have a top 5 in his cards. Oh, and that's huge, and that's a big slide! And that's Jack way off! And he's off into the dirt, something huge there! He's still ahead of Pindaz now. And Prius finally gets back into 4th. And now Jack's got to worry about Pindaz. Look at Pindaz real quickly. Pindaz's tires do not have nearly the amount of punishment that Jack's have. It'll be 2 to the line. Well, 3 at the line. 3 laps left. And now Jack has to fight with Pindaz. These two have not been fighting today. Most of the time, Pindaz has been fighting farther back with Naito for 5th. But now, if Pindaz wants to fight, a chance to fight for 5th, he needs to figure out a way to make Jack make some big mistakes, burn his tires up, and force his way by. This is the only chance that he has left. There's also going to be a fight for 3rd. Coming down to it. Oh, and Jack's into the dirt again! Jack is really struggling with the tires again into the dirt. Pindaz has a run! Does he go deep into the braking? No, he actually backs off. And Jack's wide and he's into the dirt again. That's 3 times in just a span of 4 cars, and Pindaz is by. Has Jack burned off the tires? I think Jack has pushed the tires too far after pitting so much earlier than everyone else. It wouldn't have been a problem if we didn't go yellow, because he had a 15-second gap over Dino, but now it's all bleeding away. Fadez Pindaz is not having a great time of it either. Both these drivers just kind of bleeding time against each other now. Niesmorph has had another accident by the looks of it. Car is destroyed, but I think we're going to stay green to the end here. Is there going to be a fight for third? We don't know. It's just 2 laps left. These drivers are both fighting for different things in their championship run. And then you have this here. Jack gotten back in front of Pindaz. But Jack needs to be careful. Look at the life on the tires. He's in the 54s. And he's off into the dirt. He's spinning so... Every time he goes into the dirt, it's taking him so long to get back out of it. And he has to back the corners up so much to make it. But Pindaz just... I hate to say it, is just not as good of a driver in these compared to Jack. Oh boy, big twitch by Jack. Pindaz looking at the outside. Outside's a bold move, and Pindaz throws it away. And that's over. So now, as long as Jack doesn't have a Herculean mistake, that's the fight for 5th over. What about the fight for 3rd? Does Prius put any pressure on Dino here coming to the end? Well, even if Dino doesn't pull off a podium, this would arguably be driver of the day performance from him after going off lap 1, turn 2, falling to last, and now fighting for a podium at the very end here. Prius is not done, though. He is trying to set something up here. Broken's bleeding off a little bit of time ahead of this duo, but he has a 3-second lead, so it's not really going to matter. Dino's into the dirt. That gives Prius maybe one more shot. There's not a lot of good overtaking zones left here, but if Dino has a twitch or a slide, Prius could get alongside and sneak by and get back into the podium where he feels he belongs. That may have been it. That hump over the inside curb might be enough. Side by side between teammates. Into the corkscrew. And that was pretty cut and dry. While Dino had the tighter line, it was too tight. He just could not get the power down. Maybe walks off with the win and locks up all 3 championships. Roken comes home 2nd. Prius will be 3rd, and Dino will be 4th. 5th place will go just barely to Jack Broseph. But look at the tire life left. He was in the 57 range. He almost ran out of fuel as well. But Jack will come home in 5th. Pindaz denied another top 5, and Amish will be the last driver to finish on the lead lap in 7th. And that will wrap up our Laguna Seca race. We're going to knock out an ad break here, and when we come back, we'll talk to our top finishers here at Laguna Seca. We'll be back shortly. Alright, are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah.
In the Xbox party, go ahead and include your audios if you can.
Good, for me at least.
Okay. Alright. Just waiting out this mandatory Twitch ad break, so... I hear you, Jack.
I know. Yeah. See, I don't know if it was that or if it was just you're blocking me by parking on every single apex. I'm controller. Yeah. I wouldn't have. If I wouldn't have gone off track,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Laguna Seca. our race is over, and with that, so is all 3 championships have now all been locked up. MabeyRacing, go ahead, include your audio. Another win on the season. You've locked up the Drivers' Championship. You've locked up the Teams' Championship. You've locked up the Manufacturers' Championship. What do you have to say about the season? Because obviously there was nothing to talk about in the race. It was a walk-off, but what do you have to say about your season overall?
It was one of those where everything just fell into place, honestly. I got kind of lucky throughout the whole season and ended up here. I got very lucky from week 1 to week 9 now, with cautions coming out at the good points. Today's caution was probably the first caution that was a little bit unlucky for me, if anything. So, yeah, that and our Ford Performance cars were fantastic throughout the season. Couldn't have had it luckier.
I do have to ask, how in the Ford camp and how in the team in general, how did you choose the drivers? Because Drivers' Championship, very obviously it's a one-man job. But teams and manufacturers is a little bit more open-ended. You need other people to carry the weight. How did you know who to grab for your teammates?
Honestly, it's people I know, and we operate mostly as a privateer team and just stay in that way. Of course, claiming he's a fantastic driver, Thunder fantastic, brought us good points when we needed it, got it in the end, brought home the championship.
All right, and now one more question. This will be a little bit more controversial. It's known that you have a massive outsized impact on setting up the tunes in this series. Do you think that has given you and your team an unfair advantage across this championship?
No, I hardly did anything with the tuning. I just made the adjustments to make the things raceable, and that's it. I hardly did anything with tuning-wise, actually.
All right. Well, maybe it's been pretty interesting watching you. It's a 10-race season, and for all intents and purposes, you locked up a championship and missed, or in a position where you could basically miss 2 races. You did miss Mid-Ohio. You could miss Miami, and it wouldn't matter. It's really impressive what you've done. Truly 2 or 3 cuts above the rest. Good job on your win, and thanks for jumping in and talking with us.
Thank you. GG's over.
All right, I want to go ahead and talk. I can't seem to get any word from Roken, but I do want to go ahead and talk with our 3rd place finisher, Prius. Prius, you qualified up on the front row, but just mistakes from you and Roken all day today. Neither of you could really put a good set of 10 clean laps together, and you barely took home a podium spot. What was wrong that was causing the 2 of you so many mistakes today?
This car just fucking sucks. It's a stock tune with a gearing change, which means the brakes don't have good pressure, the car doesn't have good suspension to handle any of the bumps, the car doesn't turn great. So overall, just the car sucks in general, and a track that has no runoff whatsoever, you're just gonna... Any slight mistake, you're off the track and in the dirt, and if you don't get it back on track in time, you're then going 5 miles out into the middle of nowhere.
Alright, a lot of blunt honesty. Has this been an issue? Because we're not going to talk to you a lot throughout the season, obviously, but has this been an issue for you throughout the entire year, or is it just this track that's a particular problem?
Sort of both. I mean, for the most part, the cars just sucked everywhere. It's just this amplifies it with the lack of runoff. Because I actually went and tested an old FM7 Indycar tune at Road America. There's like a 6-second difference, and this car's pulling higher top end there. So...
when you say FM7, so in FM7 there are 2 different generations of IndyCar. There was the 2017, which was high downforce, and then there's 2019 with the lower downforce, similar looking to these.
Yeah, it's the newer 2019 ones.
5 seconds at Road America, jeez.
I think it was actually more like 8, but I don't remember exactly.
Well, still, even if we're conservative and say it was just 4 seconds, that's incredible. Do you think faster tunes would have made the racing better, though? Or is it just a matter of, other issues?
I wouldn't necessarily say a faster tune. Like, if you have a similar pace tune, you probably would have been fine. It's just the car need to turn a bit better, need to have decent brakes, which that could just be me being used to higher brake pressure, I don't know. And then just a decent suspension setup to where the car can actually handle to take the bumps. Like, other than that, the car's fine. It's inconsistent with
arrow.
force of physics and all that.
It just needs front arrow, honestly. That's it.
Okay. There is one more race left in the season, Prius, and your team is still fighting for second in championship for the teams and the manufacturers. Are you going to be able to show up at Miami in a week's time?
Well, if I don't get butt fucked by the 20 other ways that I've gotten fucked this year, I might be able to have a decent run there.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that. Hopefully your luck kind of falls back in your way. We have seen you at least win an Indy, so if nothing else, at least you won the biggest race of the season.
Yeah.
All right, real quickly, I want to talk with our fifth place finisher, Jack Broseph. Jack, it seems like it's a recurring issue. The races that you miss qualifying, you put on a fantastic run, but the days you actually qualify, your races just seem to fall apart.
Yeah.
You barely pulled off a top 5 today. Yeah. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
So my goal was off the start. I wanted to start with less fuel, pressure the leaders, and then pit early and possibly force the people into a mistake. But Nitto decided to play bumper cars in the first couple laps, so I lost a ton of time. And then with the late race caution, my tires were 10, 15% more than everybody else, so I was just trying to hold on. So it was just, I got unlucky. That's basically it. And I think also I practiced too much quali laps and not enough race simulation, and I was just pushing too hard in the race. So combination of not enough race simulation and just getting screwed over both from other people and just because of the caution the way it fell. So overall, I drove okay. I was happy I was able to hold off. And I think I could have definitely fought against Prius and Dino if my tires were nicer. It's what it is. I'll take the Amish, so I should hopefully have a chance at third in the points, and that's what I look forward to going to Homestead.
Yeah, that's the other thing left to talk about. The gap between the two of you was 15 points coming into today. You're 2 spots ahead of Amish, so I believe that will close the gap down by about 4 points. It might be a little more, but I think it was 4 points.
Okay.
So I think with an 11-point swing, you have to make up.
That'll be tough.
How? Okay. Do you have any special strategies you want to share, or is it just?
Win? I mean, I know I have the speed at Homestead. I just need the luck. So I'd like to get good luck and good strategy at least 1 point in the season. One of those variables I can control. So I'll be doing some strategy testing this week, and hopefully I will be doing well at Homestead. So that's what I look forward to, and that's what I got to focus on.
All right. Well, Jack, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Not a great run, but at least you have something worth fighting for going into the season finale, so we'll be keeping an eye on you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting, by the way, and saying I really appreciate it. Super cool. Also, I want to say I agree with Prius. Cars need more front aero or something. They drive like semi-trucks.
All
Sorry,
right.
pandas.
All right. Well, with that in mind, that seems to wrap up the broadcast here from Laguna Seca. There is one more race left on the schedule. It is going to be Miami in a week's time, so do feel free to join us there. While all the championships are locked up, there are still drivers all fighting for their own different scenarios going forward, so we'll want to keep an eye on that. Second place is still open for teams and manufacturers, and third place is still open for drivers as well, so keep an eye on that. But other than that, that will wrap up our broadcast here from Laguna Seca. Until next time, I've been your host, Insane Leader 13. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Farewell, and goodbye, everyone.